my name's Becca and welcome to my December book haul. Now obviously December was quite a busy month in terms of bringing books into the house because obviously there was Christmas and then a whole load of January sales, so I'm not really going to ruminate on how much I spent or anything else, or just where the hell I'm going to put some of these. I'm just going to go right through and tell you what I've got, starting with the physical books and then going into the ebooks afterwards, because that just seems to make the most sense. The first things I managed to get was Spider-Man Renew Your Vows Volumes 3 and 4. Now these two are obviously a continuation of the Spider-Man Renew Your Vows series, which is something I have been absolutely loving recently. This series is basically following Peter as an adult after he's married MJ and they've had a baby called Annie May. Now Annie May has got Peter's powers and she really wants to go out superheroing. The thing is, MJ also wants to do the same thing, and after they discovered technology which meant that MJ could share Peter's powers by wearing a special suit, they're all now basically a family of superheroes. And I just love it. I love the banter, I love how Peter interacts with his child, I generally love MJ being a badass. It's just generally a good time and I'm really excited to get to these eventually, probably around the same time the next Spider-Man film comes out, maybe when Morbius comes out, it depends on how I feel. The next was the Edge Chronicles, book 1 of the Quint saga, The Curse of the Gloam Glozer. And this book comes with a bit of a funny story because I didn't know this book existed until about 6 months ago when I went to pick up the Twig trilogy, which is that massive book I talked about several times on this channel and then never read, because it turns out I can't read it until I've read the Quint saga. So I'm going to read the Quint saga first and then go on to the Twig trilogy. Obviously this is the first one in the series. I don't own the rest of them because I'm just sort of trying it out, because even though I enjoyed the author's work on Muddle Earth, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this series because it's supposed to be a hell of a lot darker, so I'll just see how I go for the moment. Also, I'd just like to say this has got illustrations the whole way through and there's also a really nice map as well, so yay for Matt. Next I also managed to pick up Tanith Lowe in the Maleficent 7. Now this is a spin-off series from Skullduggery Pleasant, or at least a spin-off book. There is another one also that's a spin-off, which is Armageddon Out of Here, which is a collection of short stories. But this is actually just a story about Tanith Lowe, and quite frankly that's all I need to know because Tanith is one of my all-time favourite characters from this series. I love Derek Landy's writing, I had to have it. Also, this book cover is literally the same sort of style as the original Skullduggery Pleasant books are in as well, instead of like the white covers that I don't like as much, so it's a double win for me because I really like this cover. Then on the recommendation of Rachel Marie, who I will link to down below, I also got Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. Now obviously I love Shauna Maguire, I love her work in the Wayward Children series, but I haven't read anything of hers that is, well, this big and longer than a novella, so I'm slightly worried about this, but it's supposed to be a sci-fi fantasy type thing and involves basically two twins with superpowers. And it's written by Shauna Maguire and Rachel Marie highly recommends it. So hopefully this can't go wrong. Fingers crossed it won't. She's the one who actually put me onto the Wayward Children series because she raved so much about it on her channel, so hopefully the same thing will happen with Middle Game and I'll absolutely love it. Next I also managed to pick up The Night Country by Melissa Albert. Now this is the sequel to The Hazel Wood, which I absolutely adored last year. It was definitely one of my favourite books of 2019. Spoiler alert for that video because I haven't got it out yet, but never mind. But this is one of my highly anticipated books of this year. I don't know much about it, I just know that it is a sequel to The Hazel Wood, and that's all I really needed to know because I love that book so much. My one thing is that it doesn't quite match my Hazel Wood, because my Hazel Wood is a hardback because it was an exclusive from Fairy Loot, and this one obviously isn't, but it's in the same sort of style, so I'm semi-willing to look over it. Not by much though, but it's just what I'm going to have to do. And then also on the sequel front I have A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I thoroughly enjoyed because it featured a modern girl going into a fairy world, and also it involved disabled rep, and there's not enough of that about in the book world, especially in fantasy, so that is fantastic. I really enjoyed A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I really enjoyed the cliffhanger at the end of it, and now I'm really looking forward to reading the sequel and finding out what actually happens. My only thing is that this is also a paperback and mine's a hardback, but Again, Fairy Loot exclusive. I'm just going to have to get used to it. I mean, the cover's still gorgeous and the spine is still silver, so it still matches in that front, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. Then I got another Discworld novel, and this time it's Rising Steam. Now, this one is another story about Moist Von Lipwig from Going Postal. The only thing is that after I looked it up, it turns out that this is actually the third book in the Moist Von Lipwig series, and there's one in the middle that I don't have yet, so that's a bit annoying, but at the very least I've now got this one, so it's fine. And quite frankly, I'm not even going to worry about the fact that this doesn't match my hardcover of Going Postal, and it certainly doesn't match any of my other Discworld novels. It's fine. Discworld has been reprinted about 100 times at this point. Nothing matches. I've gotten used to it. And then, thanks to my best friend, I've now got Suspicious Minds, which is a Stranger Things prequel focusing all around Eleven's mother in the MK Ultra program. Now, this one I'm thoroughly excited for because obviously I love Stranger Things, I adore Stranger Things, and I want to know more about Eleven's mother, and this is going to be the best way to go about it. So I would say I'm going to read it before season 4 comes out, but I'm lying to myself if I say that, because I'm renowned for reading TV tie-ins and just general things that remind me of TV shows and films around the time the thing comes out. So this is probably going to get read around the same time that Stranger Things 4 comes out, but either way, I'm still very excited to get to it. And then I also managed to get Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston at last. I've been looking for this book everywhere for a good 2.5, 3 years now, and finally I own it because Mum finally bought it for me and I didn't have to look for it anymore, which is fantastic. I'm so happy that I finally have this again, or at least have this in the first place, I mean. And I'm just really excited to read this one. It is a sci-fi retelling of Anastasia, and while I don't have really any sort of relationship with the Anastasia movie further than the fact that it is one of my best friend's favourites, I don't really know that much about it. I just know that this is a sci-fi retelling and I'm excited. And then the final 2 books I got are both Good Omens related, and the first one is the Good Omens script book. And obviously I got the script book because I am absolutely, completely and utterly in love with Good Omens, and funnily enough, the day I'm filming this is the day that the series starts airing on BBC Two, and you can bet your ass I'm watching it, despite the fact that I've watched it 4 times already. I'm still going to watch it on the TV as well. But this is basically the script book, so everything that is said in the TV show is in here, along with a whole load of deleted scenes. And I'm really excited to read this one. I'm probably going to sit and read it while watching the TV show to see where the changes and deleted scenes are. I don't actually know which deleted scenes are in here. Hopefully we're going to have the biker scene, because I really missed the biker scene in the original TV show. And hopefully we get the scene where Aziraphale opens up the bookshop for the first time and Crowley turns up with chocolates and flowers and has to hide away from Gabriel, who also turns up at the bookshop. Fingers crossed that's in here as well, but if not, I'll just have to deal with it. But I'm still so excited to read this one. I love Good Omens so much, and this just, it's making my heart really happy because it's a script book of the TV show, and the TV show was one of my all-time favourites of 2019. And then the final physical book is the Good Omens TV Companion, because of course I have the TV Companion. The DVD had bugger all in terms of commentary, and I really badly wanted to see all the steps of the behind the scenes stuff and everything, because obviously I followed that filming schedule like a hawk. I have not watched anything outside of a Marvel film that closely, apart from obviously the latest seasons of Sherlock, which I literally practically stalked online for a good entire time it was filming. But I really wanted this one as well now, so I could see all the concept art and everything, because this is filled with pictures and stuff. So we've got pictures the whole way through and sort of how they did everything, and it's just basically a really nerdy anorak book, and I'm really excited to read it. And also, I've got to say, it's this way round on this side, and then they flip the images around the other side on the back, and I love it. And the quote is also from Neil Gaiman on the back that says, "Terry's last request to me was to make this something he would be proud of." And so that has been my job, and I just love that quote. I love how dedicated Neil Gaiman was to this show and how much love he put into it, and I'm just really excited to see just how much love went into this show behind the scenes as well. And then, because I also managed to get a Kindle for Christmas because they went on offer, my iPad completely died on me this year, I ended up trying to fill this And by the way, that's what it looks like. I've now got it in a Don't Touch Me case, as well as a Beauty and the Beast book sleeve, just to make sure it's definitely safe. But naturally, when I got that, I decided that I really badly wanted to fill it with graphic novels, despite the fact that I've already got 1,000,001 graphic novels coming out of my ears. But I decided to get some more because, quite frankly, Comixology had basically a sale on constantly, and they still have a sale on, but I've just had to step back a bit before I bought everything. But before I step back, here are all the books I managed to get. The only book on this list that isn't a graphic novel is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and the reason why I got this one is because of the Royally Booked Club. They haven't actually released their announcement video at time of filming, but they probably have done by the time this video comes out. If they have, I will leave a link to it down below. But it's basically a year-long read-along of the Cosmere universe, starting with Elantris. So obviously I had to get that one just so I was up to date with everything in the universe, and so I was reading it properly. And then onto the comic books. I'm not going to lie, this is a jumble of Marvel stuff and other stuff. I haven't separated it out simply because I can't be bothered and I'm lazy, and this is the second time I've tried to film this, so I'm just going with it. First thing I managed to buy was volumes 1 through 4 of Monstress, because I rebought volume 1 at the beginning of December and read it and reignited my interest in the series, and I knew that if I didn't buy the rest of the series while I was at it, while it was on offer, it was going to be another case where it just sits on my Kindle gathering basically digital dust, and I never finished the series. So at the very least now, I've actually got it on my Kindle so I can read it whenever I fancy. I've then also got Doctor Strange Punisher Magic Bullets, and this is basically a team-up comic between Doctor Strange and the Punisher as they try to take down some sort of mystical threat. I'm not entirely sure, I just saw Doctor Strange and went, yay! And it's also one of those comics that's been on my list for a very, very long time because I'm quite interested in the dynamic between these two characters, because obviously Doctor Strange swore an oath to do no harm and doesn't like killing and all the rest of it, whereas Punisher's very, very pro killing people, essentially. So I'm very interested to see how that dynamic works between the two of them. I've then also got Strange Beginning and Endings. Now this comic is basically a Doctor Strange origin story, and I got this simply because I really badly want to read Doctor Strange's origins. I've sort of read it in The Oath, but that was told through flashback, and I wanted to actually see it in sort of full story form and not just in flashback, so I got the comic while it was on offer. This next one is a giant series. So the first one is Dark Avengers, which is basically, I think, maybe clones of the Avengers, but they're evil, run by Norman Osborn if I remember rightly, which then goes into Avengers X-Men Utopia, which I don't really know much about, I'm not gonna lie, which then goes into Siege, and I've got all of these comics. Now Siege, I don't know anything about either. I basically got all of these comics because they were written by Brian Michael Bendis, and I love Brian Michael Bendis, like, with all my heart. I adore his work for Marvel, and quite frankly, I will buy anything of his, especially when it's supposed to be a dark thing compared to, say, any of his other work or any of the usual comics. I've then got Gwenpool volumes 3 through 5. Now, usually I would have bought these in physical format like I did the Spider-Man Renew Your Vow series, but unfortunately I couldn't because they'd actually been put out of print, so I couldn't actually get them in physical format unless I wanted to spend £30 to £60 on each of them, and I am, quite frankly, not made of money. So instead I got them on Kindle instead while they were on offer, and I got them for about £2.99 each, which is one hell of a saving, even if the physical comics were still in print. I then managed to get War of the Realms, which is the final bit in the Jason Aaron Thor series, and ironically the rest of Jason Aaron's Thor series was also on sale, and I didn't buy any, and I've had to add them all to the birthday list and be like, please, I need these before Love and Thunder because this follows Jane Foster as Thor and all the rest of it. But the reason why I got War of the Realms is because it is such a huge thing in the comics at the moment. It seemed like this huge revelationary thing, and I really wanted to read it because I've seen quite a few screenshots of this series, and I just really badly wanted to read it, so while it was on offer, I nabbed it. I also got the Secret Wars Prelude for a very similar reason. I got Secret Wars in a previous sale a couple of months ago, but I didn't have the Prelude, and when that went on sale, I decided to get it now, so then I could read Secret Wars. I've got no idea what it's about, I'm not going to lie to you. I've got no idea whatsoever what the hell it's about. I'm just excited because it's Secret Wars, and it's a Marvel comic, and generally I quite like those. Well, I'm saying I quite like those. I love them. I next got Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which is weird when you say that you love the Marvel Universe, but quite frankly, I love Deadpool and I love seeing all the stuff he gets up to, and this is one of his most famous comics, so I really want to get to this one and just see what all the fuss is about. I think there's a couple of others in this series as well where like the rest of the Marvel Universe gets back at him, I think, so I'm quite excited to see where this one goes. I then got X-Men Legacy Divided He Stands, which is a tie-in to the House of M series, which I am obviously obsessed with. I talk about it enough on this channel. I'm clearly obsessed with it, and this one focuses all on Charles, and obviously I adore Charles Xavier more than I can possibly say. So when I found out that this was a tie-in to the House of M series, it focused on Charles, and it also ties into the X-Men Legacy series, and I think gives a bit more further context to the X-Men Legacy Legion series. I had to have it. Then I also got The Witcher Library Volume 1, which is a bind-up of the first 4 volumes of Witcher comics. Now, I wouldn't have looked twice at this a couple of months ago, but since watching The Witcher, I have bought this t-shirt to start with. I have bought all 3 games because they were on sale for 10 quid in total instead of paying £25 for the 3rd one, which was a bargain. And I'm also about to start ordering in the books from the library so I can read them. And I'm desperate for series 2, and I've watched the series, like the original series, twice now. And I literally was sat watching it on Christmas Day, which is just tells you just how obsessed I am with The Witcher. So naturally I also bought the comics, especially when I found out it was written or drawn by the same people who work on Hellboy, so I can't wait to get to these. Next I got Fables volumes 3 through 5. Now this is basically what I call Once Upon a Time for Adults, where basically a whole lot of fairy tale characters have been taken from their world and chucked into our one. Only in this story they actually know who they are. Some of them are rebelling, some of them are murdering people, and I'm pretty sure Cinderella turns out to be an assassin, and assassin fairy tale characters, I'm sold, essentially. And I really enjoyed the first 2 volumes, and quite frankly it wasn't quite working for me just buying one of them, reading it, and then waiting until I finished like another book buying ban before I bought the next one. So I thought I'd get the next 3 in this series just so I've got a couple to read in the meantime. I've also done the exact same thing with Rat Queen, so I've bought volumes 4 through 6, which is the last one that has been released as of yet. There is another one coming this year, but obviously I'm going to have to wait a little while before I buy that, because obviously I'm clearly on a book buying ban after this because I've bought so many things that I need to get through them. But Rat Queens is basically a group of 4 warrior magic women who basically are sort of like Geralt actually, where they go around and sort of kill monsters and stuff, and it's really, really good fun. I absolutely love the series. It's quite rude, but I have a great time reading it, so I thought I'd get the next 3, so whenever I fancy reading it, I can read it. I also managed to get the War of the Realms Prelude, which I forgot to say earlier, but I got the War of the Realms Prelude because there's no point in having War of the Realms without the Prelude as well. Obviously, I will be getting the rest of the Thor comics, hopefully over the next couple of years, hopefully before Thor Love and Thunder comes out, so I can just binge the lot of it, because that's what I originally planned on doing. But as long as I've now got the Prelude, I'm now semi-ready for that section of the story, at least when I want to read it. Then I've also managed to get House of X / Powers of X, which is this really, really big bind-up of the latest X-Men stories, which is supposed to somehow change how we feel about the X-Men. Somehow, I'm not entirely sure how, because obviously I haven't read it yet, but anything with the X-Men on, anything that's quite sort of revolutionary about the X-Men, I am there. I've also managed to get Hawkeye versus Deadpool, which is basically, I've got no idea. I did put it on my wish list about 2-3 years ago and I've never found it, and then it was down to like $1.99 on Comixology, so I snapped it up. I don't know when I'll get to this, probably around the same time the Hawkeye TV show comes out, or whenever Deadpool 3 comes out, whichever comes first. But I'm very, very excited to see this one because both of them are so different, and I'm really excited to see how they interact. And then finally I got volumes 2 and 3 of Hawkeye Kate Bishop, because I loved the first volume of this series when it first came out, or at least when I bought it. I definitely bought it later than it came out by several years, but I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I love seeing Kate Bishop struggle to be Hawkeye, because everyone doesn't expect her to be Hawkeye. They're expecting Clint, but it's actually her. I love seeing her relationship with Jessica Jones, and I just generally really, really enjoyed it. So I thought I'd get the next 2, so I'm definitely ready for the Hawkeye TV show when Kate Bishop turns up. And that that is absolutely everything I bought in the January sales and what I was gifted for Christmas. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with what you bought or what you've bought in the last couple of months. And if you've read any of these books, please tell me down below what you thought of them. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here. And over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time, guys, bye.